Sharat Sinha looks after the marketing and strategies for service providers in the Asia Pacific region on behalf of Cisco Systems. Sharat, welcome today.
Thank you.
Sharat, taking it as given that broadband is already out there in much of the developing world, is it now really just a case of putting it to work?
Industry-wide, if you look at the telecom industry, and because of various developments, one of them of course is broadband, they are leading to deployment of next generation networks, which effectively means that packetization of network is happening, not just for internet, but for all kind of applications, which includes broadband, mobility, voice, etc. And this industry is growing and progressively is leading towards convergence. So we see good growth in this industry.
This is the Asian leg of the Broadband World Forum in 2004. Has broadband arrived?
Broadband definitely has arrived, and it is continuously seeing growth in almost every country in Asia Pacific. So although depending on the status of deregulation, depending on the status of local loop available in different countries, there are different modes of access for broadband available, but at the same time growth is being seen uniformly everywhere.
So what kind of things can be done to further stimulate the market?
Fundamentally, I think there are certain regulatory aspects which need to be taken care of in a country to drive broadband. So in countries with good amount of tele-density and good amount of local loop available, unbundling of local loop leads to growth of broadband. Development of applications which can be run on broadband, especially in the area of video, because triple play, quadruple play an important role. Again, drive broadband to a great extent. I think growth of home networking, convergence in enterprise, which is continuously happening, associated regulations and steps by service providers and investment in that area can lead to this growth.
Sharat, we're here in Korea, a market held up as a shining example of broadband success. As growth begins to slow here, is this idea of success really so true?
It should be treated as a success case, although there have been different kind of applications which have made broadband successful in Korea. I mean, internet gaming is an interesting example. But while applications may differ, Korea example can be replicated in other countries depending on the requirements of application, and other countries can learn a lot from the growth of broadband that has been seen in Korea. So for example, they moved from DSL to ADSL to VDSL, going to Metro Ethernet, probably PON deployment will be seen soon. Plus the development in wireless space like EVDO, which has been deployed. Maybe they still might go to 3G after EVDV, so that kind of growth can be replicated.
But are there not some unique characteristics about Korea that means that this couldn't be replicated in other markets?
Definitely. So the regulatory support, the fact that population is concentrated in a single city to a large extent allows reach to customers much easier. But at the same time, as I said, the applications would vary. The status of regulation might be slightly different. But there is possibility of replicating these examples in a slightly different way.
Cisco makes equipment that deals with traffic regardless of its origin. I'm interested to know the company's point of view on the wireless wireline debate.
Well, it's an interesting question. We have seen growth of various wireline access mechanisms like DSL, cable, Metro Ethernet, probably even PON coming in certain countries, and mobile wireless developments like in GSM world you have GPRS leading to Edge or 3G, and in CDMA world you have got EVDO going to EVDV and 3G ultimately, plus other fixed wireless type technologies with limited mobility like Wi-Fi, WiMAX, OFDM, ultra wideband coming to the market. So choice of access technology for broadband would again depend on the application. There are certain applications which demand mobility. So for them, wireless access definitely is going to be important. But at the same time, broadband is also driven by triple play and quadruple play, which means voice, video, data with mobility, home networking, etc. And video typically is one application which is, and most of the associated applications are seen mostly on wireline access. So for example, we have yet to see how many people would be interested in watching television or doing video conferencing on a mobile device. So while wireless continues to grow, there are certain applications for which wireline still might be a preferred mode of access.
But given the aging state of legacy networks around the world, is it not fair to say that wireless should win out in the end?
It would. So again, it depends on which wireless we are talking about. There is one fixed wireless concept where wireless is in the access, but the user remains stationary. And then there is wireless which is fully mobile. At the same time, even in wireline, apart from DSL, there are technologies like Metro Ethernet and PON appearing, which provide huge bandwidth and can provide a lot of video type applications which are more relevant for wireline kind of access, because users would typically like to be stationary as they use those applications. So in my opinion, both would stay. In short term, we see possibility of both existing, but at the same time, convergence will start happening in the core and edge for these technologies. And more than the mobility piece, it is the portability of these applications over multiple access mechanisms which will become more important.
The consensus is, at least from a service provider point of view, that enterprises will drive new take-up of services. Does this differ in different markets?
To some extent it would, but at the same time, enterprise are always the earlier adopter of technology, and broadband typically has a lot of productivity benefits for enterprise, and they can immediately see the business case for it and adopt broadband. But again, depending on maturity of the market, once enterprise has taken up broadband, typically with internet access, home networking, etc., the consumer segment also starts taking up broadband.
Cisco is currently looking at the emergence of many new players in some of the markets it's often had a free rein in, just at the same time as many emerging markets are opening up. I'm interested to know how the company plans to see off these new competitors.
So we continue to see growth of broadband associated next generation technologies and networks in pretty much every country in Asia. And in most of the countries, we have the right partnerships in place. We have partnerships, we have alliances. But at the same time, Cisco is very open to opportunities. So depending on the right opportunity, we are willing to partner with a lot of other people who can provide value to our end customers. And we continue to work in that area.
Sharat Sinha, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Tim.